I'm Mark Seifster.
And I'm Linda Zayas Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. Hello
everybody, and welcome to another episode of Arcane Mark's Workshops, where we collaboratively build things together with Twitch. Today we're going to be designing an NPC.
That's right. Not just any NPC. Any NPC.
Indeed. And as it turns out, we already have our first concept from chat. What about a town blacksmith or crafter? Someone the PCs can go to get specific items crafted.
There you go. So we have one concept, which is the town blacksmith. So let's see what other concepts people have in chat, and then we will vote.
Crafted or repaired, yes. So this would be an NPC that focuses on the crafting skill, and I think that they probably would be one of those NPCs that would follow the rule of, like, their combat level and their skill level are different.
Yes, their abilities at crafting far outweigh their actual abilities in the fight.
Yeah.
There's always some kind of trope in the story for that blacksmith that people go to visit. You know the one, and they go to the village or town blacksmith, and they're somehow better than you would expect from that level of a town, and they the party gets close to that blacksmith. There's a lot of those.
And there might be a chance to get them to forge the legendary sword, or like they might be someone who's like retired from or on the run from some other country, or like someone who was like the disciple of some ridiculously over the top great person who then thinks that they're not as good or what have you.
That's right. That's definitely possibilities for a blacksmith. So, does anyone else in chat have other blacksmith idea, or not blacksmith, other NPC? I just said blacksmith.
Now you've got the blacksmith.
Now I've got blacksmith stuck in there as the only option. But other NPC ideas that are additionally to this blacksmith idea that we have here, so we can vote for the concept. Type it out into chat, and we will see what we wind up with.
I have a character in one of the games that we're playing named Froggery, who was named after like an earlier character that I had, who is like very much this Smith archetype. And so now, like, Mark and I have taken to calling Smith characters in stories Froggeries, and it's really made it stand out how many of these sort of fantasy stories have that kind of like devoted crafter, maybe a lot more skilled at the anvil and the forge than its social skills.
All right, so we have another one, which is someone from an enemy empire that offers the party information about a town in that empire that's plausible but inaccurate. So we have town blacksmith. We have
what do we have? Is that like a spy misinformant?
Or yeah, it's like I'll just say misinformant, or foreign misinformant.
Yes.
Then we have meta GM / Sanderson avatar character. From Tomoki Yamori.
Oh, there's a term for that?
There's a term for the foreign misinformant, which is apparently dead spy, so we can put dead spy there.
I like all of these. Oh, and there's another one too. That one's cool. A friendly mimic without any hidden agenda whatsoever.
Friendly mimic without any hidden agenda
whatsoever.
Okay. So yeah, we have 4 ideas so far. Does anyone have any other NPC ideas to put in? Otherwise, we will vote between these 4.
And these are all solid ideas, so.
Yes. None of them, as far as I can tell, is a liquid, a gas, or a plasma.
I mean, the mimic could get suspiciously liquid.
That's possible. Undertaker with latest gossip, but actually serial killer. All right. So, vote for your favorite of these 5 NPC ideas. The town blacksmith or crafter that you go to when you need something fixed or made. the foreign misinformant who slash dead spy who's giving you information about their empire but it's wrong, the Hoid-like meta GM slash Sanderson avatar character who pushes people in the right direction, the friendly mimic without any hidden agenda, or the Undertaker with the latest gossip but who's actually a serial killer. Let's find out which of these NPCs we will be building in Build an NPC Workshop based on your votes. Right now, Kojo and Tomoki have both voted for their own initial idea. Turgaman has voted for Rico's foreign misinformant idea. So there's a 3-way tie for first place. We'll see which one winds up winning based on other people's votes in chat. So if you still have not voted yet, your vote can make the difference. Lava Being is voting 3 for the Hoid-like Sanderson GM avatar meta character.
Rico is voting 2.
Rico's voting for 2. So I don't know, Kojo. I feel like yours has a lot of use case potential. It probably has the most use case potential because it's broad enough. It's like Linda said, there are froggies in every adventure.
So like normally. Oh, it was actually a psychopomp in disguise, which is what was intended.
It was supposed to be a psychopomp instead of a serial killer. I see. Like, it does make sense that the Undertaker has lots of information.
So
could have been a morrigna psychopomp.
Normally, I say, like, if we're really tied, we could maybe combine them. We can't really combine the GM character who pushes you in the right direction and someone who deliberately gives you wrong information because you're a terrible GM at that.
Yes, if your GM avatar is an unreliable narrator and you did not have, like, a powerful god being who erased your memory and then redid the conversation a second time to make sure that you wouldn't recognize who it was, then it's probably your fault that the PCs all don't trust you because your literal GM avatar was giving them wrong information about the Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 and 2 could be combined to be a blacksmith who just happens to have bad info. Maybe not even on purpose, but just like is just really good at crafting. But it's like
just like everything, all the leads you get from the blacksmith are just like comically bad.
But like really good at crafting, but really terrible at knowing the correct information. Here's all the worst
You would
rumors.
probably give them like a bespoke penalty on sense motive. It's like their perception's good, but when it comes time to figure out what people are actually talking about, so I heard that people came into my shop the other day and they said there was a dragon up there on the mountain.
And Turgaman likes 2-5, the foreign misinformant who is an Undertaker who might be a psychopomp or instead of a serial killer, and just isn't quite correct because they come from purgatory and they don't understand the mortal world well enough to give good information.
So like what is even going on in the votes right now? I'm seeing large numbers of pluses.
Okay, so here's what we're doing.
Are we making 2 NPCs?
Here's what we're doing. Yes, we are making an NPC that is all of... now, I feel bad for whoever put in 4, but the friendly... it's Rico. He got his own other thing anyway. It is all of them except for 4.
Okay.
So here's what this character is. They're a psychopomp, not a serial killer. I got that wrong in there. They appear to be a blacksmith, a crafter who works like their shop is set up like in a graveyard, and they make weapons maybe they make armor but not weapons because they don't want their weapons to be used to kill people needlessly. Okay, and they are actually a morrigna psychopomp who is trying to like spy on the mortal world and give insightful information about the campaign and functions somewhat as an author avatar to help push PCs in the right direction, but due to being from purgatory does not understand the mortal realm, so it's not a malicious character, And the way that it's wrong isn't enough to make the PCs just get aggravated and be like, this is wrong, and literally just tricked us into doing a horrible thing that we now hate. But it's more like, it's mostly right enough that the following the lead that it was given was a good idea, but it was wrong on some measures that make you realize this is not a human being.
The way that they describe this social interaction is not...
Yeah, like, they said that the carriage may have, like, made it to, like, hell or heaven or something like that after leaving the town, but there's no signs of a portal opening. It's probably just went out of the town onto the plains.
Yeah.
And so they just, like, kind of don't understand the situation. So Tomoki, it turns out that it wasn't supposed to be a like a serial killer. It was supposed to be a psychopomp, but there was like a typo between like psycho and psychopomp.
Yeah.
And then I took it to mean that they were a serial killer. And that was so it's everything except for a mimic. That is the NPC that we are making. So also, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't have to be a morrigna, but morrignas are, if I recall correctly, are specifically the information gatherers, bounty hunters, and investigators.
Can we say that they have a mimic friend who hangs out at their shop?
I mean, yes, they can have a mimic friend who just has no ulterior motive and just hangs out in their shop and helps. No, their mimic friend is a model.
Oh, yeah!
Their mimic is a model who just models off by showing off. It's like, your armor could look like this.
Ha-ha! Look!
And then, works as a model for this armor smith. So, this is what we've got here. So now, a normal morrigna is normally level 15. I'm thinking the reason this one is a bit of a klutz is because they're lower level than a basic morrigna. Because normally when you make an NPC, you'd be like, well, they're probably higher level than the basic one.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this is like the junior morrigna who, like, you know what? She was probably supposed to be training and continuing, but was like, no, I can do this. I'm going to be an investigator just like
everyone else.
Just like my mentor who I look up to. I'm ready. I'm going there. And it just didn't get to the part in the coursework where you learn about the mortal realm so you can fit in, and so it was just like a little bit not.
So if we're looking at the skills here compared to a typical morrigna, I'm thinking that society is gonna tank.
But crafting
is gonna be good, yeah.
Yes.
Because they don't normally have crafting.
So let's see. And yes, exactly, Kojo. The mimic is basically a virtual reality model. That's exactly correct. So and yeah, the mimic has no hidden agenda. The mimic is just like a vain mimic who loves being a model and is like, yes, look how beautiful my mimic form is as being a model.
Yes, I can model anything. I look good in everything.
So what level does everyone think this, like, kind of really trying her best morrigna is? When level 15 is the normal morrigna psychopomp. So pick any level, but if you pick a higher level than 15, then we will can the idea that this is a much weaker morrigna blacksmith who left like early, and we can make it a elite morrigna who's just so ancient that she's out of touch with mortal time.
Yeah, either way works. So far we have a vote for 10 and a vote for 7.
We've got a vote for 10, a vote for 7. What else can we see here in chat? Those are both good possibilities. And Turgaman, we kind of are playing our own tabletop RPG of making the character. So yeah, we've got another 7.
Another 7 and a 12.
So, all right, let's do 9. 9 works pretty well. We're gonna do that. After all, you know, morrigna, psychopomp, a lot of the psychopomps are like very slightly adjusted names of psychopompic or battle deities. In this case, morrigna is Morrigan from Celtic mythology with the A and N switched at the end. Now, Morrigan is a triple goddess with Banv and Maka. So 9 is 3 squared. Therefore, numerology says that was the correct level.
That was a very thorough tangent.
Yes, well, now we know.
All right.
So we've got Junior Morrigna Crafter.
So, we're
Level
talking
9.
about the kinds of things that are crafted in the armor. The aesthetic and nature of Morrigna is very, like, watchful spiders and stuff like that. So I'm wondering about what that means for the kinds of armor that she makes. I imagine that this might be more like less of like stereotypical metal armor and more like these really intricately woven pieces of armor.
I think it's probably a mix of like silk as strong as steel with bone reinforcements.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
That's my vision of the aesthetic, that she's almost a tailor more than a blacksmith, but that it still can be used for metal armor.
Yes.
All right. And Koja says level 9 with lots of misplaced confidence. That's right. Because she knows that unlike other Morrigna, she's also an awesome blacksmith. So
yeah,
she's nailing it. She's ready. She doesn't see why they said you have to spend another century before going out to the mortal realm. I mean, come on. Those undead are not going to fight themselves.
Yeah, right?
That's right. So, yes, exactly, Tomoki. Our NPC is going to lead to a new custom armor property, probably. We could call it, like Olethros Weave, because of the fact that Olethros is an even more powerful psychopomp that, like, forms bows entirely out of silk.
Also, like, given her confidence, I could totally see her using a pretentious name like that.
I would imagine, Tomoki, that it probably is, like, expensive like Mithril, and it probably is, like, lower weight, like Mithril is as well. So we've got this Morrigna. Let's take a look at what other... we know what level she is. We know her traits are going to be Psychopomp.
Yes.
Medium Psychopomp. And so let's think about using the base Morrigna leveled down as a baseline. Let's think about what we're going to do with her different abilities and modifiers. So right now, when we're looking at each...
I already have that open.
Oh, yeah, tab. I see. But I wanted to put it near the Morrigna.
Oh, fair enough.
Okay. So we're looking at each of these statistics for her. So, and we'll base it off of the base Morrigna. So a base Morrigna's ability modifiers are high strength, and for their level. And for their level, a Morrigna normally has moderate wisdom, and then has the maximum low value for Dex, Con, and Charisma, and Int is just slightly below that.
So the way we've been describing this Morrigna so far,
higher Int and lower wisdom,
makes me think higher Int and lower wisdom than normal for sure.
What do you think, chat? Do you agree that this one is not only adjusted for her level, but also possibly higher Int and lower wisdom due to being a crafter? Who's good at crafting, but like just was not willing. She was a certified genius among Morrigna, and therefore wasn't willing to listen to anybody that she wasn't ready yet.
So maybe flop the Int and wisdom relative.
So here's what we've got. So she's level 9. So already it would be 643 instead of 864.
Yeah.
Would be how things would normally go. So let's give her, and then she would have one that is below that, and that can be wisdom. And then all the other ones become 3.
3, yes.
So then
so basically
it's
flip
6
the
strength,
Int and wisdom, and then lower down proportionally.
6 strength, 3 in the other things, 4 Int, and 2 wisdom.
And then in the
fact,
skills,
maybe she even has 5 Int,
5 Int,
which is
yeah,
higher
I think that
proportionally, but that's because of the fact that things like kind of push down to be further down.
Yeah.
And so
in terms of this great at crafting, not so great at peopling thing we've discussed, we're going to need crafting in the skills.
We definitely will. But let's do perception next, because that's just the one that's in building creatures, and we're going top to bottom, everybody. So, a basic Morrigna, being that they are literally the scouts and spies and investigators of the Boneyard, or Purgatory, it should be no surprise that they are basically very close to high in perception.
Yes.
Now, I think that this person is maybe down to moderate perception for her level due to her lower wisdom. What does everybody think in chat? Type what you think in chat, but if nobody tells me otherwise, I am going to...
I'm also thinking, like, do people want to go with the bespoke sense motive penalty?
Feel like...
Or is that, like, a little much?
She probably isn't worse than even her wisdom specified.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Maybe that could be represented more by not having very good society.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case, that her society is low, so therefore her information is wrong. So
the lowest her society could be while being trained at her level would be 16.
That's right.
And what would that be for her level?
So looking at where we've got
that would be low, actually.
That is low. It is 16 for her level, the top of
It's
low.
also possible she's just not trained in it.
Yep. So normally a morrigna's the way a morrigna's things work is that there's a little Sudoku going on, but they're like basically about as close, very, very close to high in religion, and they are just above moderate in boneyard lore. Then, they're also very, very close to high in intimidation. They're just above moderate in boneyard lore. They're at moderate in diplomacy and athletics and stealth, and then they are typically at low, but like kind of near the top of low in society.
Mm-hmm.
That's a typical morrigna's situation. So I feel like that this morrigna doesn't have society. And people are saying that we could be untrained in society since she's level 9. It looks like people are saying that makes sense.
And then they're also saying that she may not have Boneyard Lord or may not be as good at it, too.
But, like, it's just being level 9 will lower a lot of these. But it makes sense that she knows about the Boneyard, but not...
You drop society, but then, like, she has lower...
Not the material world.
Lower Boneyard Lord, because she hasn't been around for as long, yeah. So, right, what would that be?
Let's see. We've got, like, 20, 18, and then 16 to 13. So... If her boneyard lore is 18, then even with her int, it still isn't fantastic.
Yeah, so it's still 10 worse than a typical morrigna.
That is right. And so she can still be good at intimidation. She's probably a lot worse at religion.
Yeah, because her wisdom is way lower than normal.
Yeah, I think she's gonna be a lot worse at religion because her wisdom is lower. And then her athletics and diplomacy can be probably just in moderate, like they normally would be, and same with stealth.
Are you gonna Sudoku those?
They can have a magic +1 item bonus because they're level 9.
Ah, yeah, that works.
So they are for anything in
Stealth,
Sudoku.
Or society, yeah, we
gotta cut it. Society is gone.
Boom.
I'm gonna replace society with
crafting.
First of all, we need crafting, and she's obviously good at it.
Yes.
There's a reason this is our crafting character. She's the person that people would go to for crafting, even if they're much higher level, and her crafting could be something that's not even appropriate for her level.
Absolutely.
She should be at least as good as, like, a full-on morrigna who had crafting would be in order for her to be this confident in her crafting. So I'm going to give her a +30 on crafting, which is 10 higher than any of her other things that she has. Which is better than any normal morrigna is at any skill by 1.
Yes.
It's not much better than a normal
she's a
morrigna
ridiculous
is.
crafting prodigy.
And this is how good she is at level 9. Imagine how good she'll be when she's actually
no wonder she's
up.
Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I'm genius.
And then I'm going to give her one more thing, which is slightly incorrect GM insert lore. So she has the skill slightly incorrect GM insert lore.
Here, see, now
at
I
plus
thought you were
20.
just gonna give her dubious knowledge, but this is funnier.
So, and then we will describe slightly incorrect GM insert lore later on, which will definitely be dubious. Don't worry.
Now,
So-
instead of the +2 striking bow staff.
Yeah, hold on. This slightly incorrect GM insert lore should be in the top section.
Ah, yes, that's true.
So,
That's true.
we should get a name for this, this morrigna. For now, I am going to call her, let's see. We can call her, Maka with a C and the H switch, which is another one of the triple goddess of the Morrigan in Celtic mythology with 2 letters switched like morrigna is.
Legit?
But we can change it later. So, we can just say Maka has a special lore skill. Slightly incorrect GM insert lore.
Mm-hmm.
Which she can use
To pierce through the
to
fourth wall.
attempt to recall knowledge on any topic the GM wants to give
the piece's information.
when the GM wants to give the PC's information. The result depends on her skill check.
Critical success.
Critical success.
The information is accurate. Is actually accurate.
Maka's information is mostly
Being
accurate
different-
and would be almost impossible to obtain without being a GM insert or a literal psychopomp from purgatory. She has at least 3 she knows at least 3 mostly accurate facts with inaccuracies that don't cause major problems for the PCs. Success.
Should we do critical failure next so that we figure out what our range is?
Yes, critical failure. Everything Maka thinks is true is totally wrong
In the worst way possible for the PCs.
in a way that is seriously problematic for the PCs, typically due to her lack of understanding of mortal culture or physiology or some aspect of the mortal plane. So then regular success is Maka's information is somewhat accurate and very obscure, and it's still useful even though the inaccuracies might cause some inconvenience.
Maybe failure is Maka's information is mostly inaccurate, but there are some nuggets of truth buried in it that
That's
can be
right.
used.
Is mostly inaccurate, but the parts that are still accurate wind up being surprisingly useful. And the inaccurate facts aren't completely
Maybe they
or aren't so disqualifying that the PCs were harmed by following up on her lead.
yes, so maybe they waste time, but they're not going to be actively harmed by it. That makes sense.
Yes. There we go. So that's her new ability, which
Oh, my
is
goodness.
which is named slightly
The
incorrect
incorrect
GM
GM
insert
insert
lore.
lore,
I can
yes.
put that into chat if it even
No, it's too long.
Okay, yeah, it's actually way too long. We'll just do it in the Discord later on. So yes, she is just not there yet, Kojo. It's not that she's a failure to society, it's that she didn't see the need to stay for another century and learn about mortal society. She was ready now.
Yes.
Look at how good she is at crafting.
The local baron's favorite food is stone. Incorrect, psychopomp.
Mm-hmm. She's the psychopomp version of, the classic teen who's just like, I am invincible, I can do anything.
Now
why
I'm just
do people not
imagining,
let me
hearing
do
something
them?
about how, after eating, the baron slept like a stone. It's like, oh, the baron likes to eat stones. It's like, no.
It's like the Baron likes to be in rest in a Zen rock garden like stones do.
Yes.
We should buy him one of those as a bed.
Oh my gosh.
The Baron's been turned to stone. His advisor must be a Medusa.
Misunderstanding colloquial phrases.
Maybe her name is actually Misunderstanding.
Oh no. She's already smashing the fourth wall to bits. Go for it.
Or misinformation. We can see what people think. I just put in the maca.
Oh, I like that one in the chat. She misheard Baron and thinks the ruler of the town is a literal bear.
There you go.
You see them. This town is ruled by an awakened bear.
Yes. Or no, actually, the ruler is not just a bear.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually a dungeon that looks like a charming inn whose avatar is a bear. Because they said it was a bear inn. What, it was a bear inn? Oh, it's an inn whose avatar is a bear inn. Or the inn is naked.
How did she have a pasta wisdom on?
Because in the outer planes, that's just something that could happen.
Okay.
That's something that could happen normally.
Oh my god, alright.
Okay, so anyway.
What's the usual deal with her? Her AC is actually probably really solid because she makes really good armor.
Morrignas normally have one higher AC than their level, than high for their level. They're very good at AC.
Which makes sense because she makes really good armor.
Yes, so. As an armorer, her AC probably is that high because she wears her own armor. She gets high from her own supply. High AC, that is. All right, so let's see.
Well, she was talking about the Baron and stones before, so.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's how she got the impression.
There you go. All right, well.
That the Baron likes eating stones.
That's got to be it. So saving throws. So if we look at Morrigna's saving throw, they have high will. They have slightly above moderate reflex. They have significantly above low fortitude, even though it's their lowest, and they have a +1 to all saves versus
But now
magic.
her wisdom is
But her wisdom's not as high.
not as high.
So even though you might imagine that a Morrigna, it looks like that the difference between their reflex and will is entirely based on the higher wisdom, and that they have a lower base fortitude modifier. So if that's the case, then given the fact that her wisdom is actually lower than
her dexterity. Do we maybe increase her dexterity by 1?
I mean,
and then that would let us flip. That would
yes.
let us flip naturally to have the reflex be the one that's higher.
We can. So then she could have.
Yeah.
Then she could have a, if we look at level 9, it's usually 21, 18, 15, but let's make it 20, 18, 16, so that she's not as much above the curve. So it would be 20, 18, 16 on reflex is highest, 18 is will, and 16 is fortitude due to presumably a lower progression on fortitude, because yes, it would be only expert. All right, and keep the +1 status to saves against magic, I guess. All right, so
her regeneration.
So let's
and
see.
hit points and such. Is that
So
what's next on our list?
instead of having, let's see. So the next thing that would be on there is indeed hit points with regeneration and all that jazz. So the regeneration is obviously far too high for a level 9 character to have. No, not that trolls don't have like a way out of bounds regeneration, because they do. But we can obviously cut the regeneration down to 10.
Yeah.
And keep the immunities, but cut
the
the resistances
cut them to
down
10 as well.
to 10 as well.
Yeah, that's right. Because that's within
Honestly,
the standard range for their level. Or you could bring them down lower.
We could bring them down to 7.
Yeah.
And then
it won't have to have quite as much impact on the total hit points if it's 7.
Normally, a morrigna has hit points that are exactly in between medium and low, moderate and low, just due to being moderate, but adjusted for like a little bit for the AC. But they're level 15, so it's not as much. And then for the regeneration, and so this time we're level 9. So we probably should be adjusted even more for the AC than we normally would. And for the regeneration, so we probably have like 110. So we lose more than half
round,
of the hit points. Alright. So let's see. In terms of our speed, their speed was not out of control. Even at higher levels, like, no one's going to write home about a
35
30 foot
30 instead of 25,
and a 30-foot climb. So given that she doesn't believe in crafting weapons, she can just fight with her web wrappings.
Seems legit.
Like, she already has web wrappings,
so we can
take
the
the bow staff
item, and then we don't
in the items we just put like that she has a +1 Olethros silk. Let's see, what's her dexterity again? We said it was 4.
Yeah, I think it's 4 now. Yeah.
So it's a +1 Olethros silk leather armor. So that can be her armor because she made herself that armor.
Yep.
And then she does not need to have a magic weapon. Let's take a look at her strike attack bonus. So normally a level 15 morrigna is at 30, or no, sorry, 30 would be the high. She is actually at 31 for the +2 bow staff, at 29 for the web wrappings because it doesn't have the +2. So basically it centers around the correct value instead of making the web wrappings complete trash.
Yes.
Since we don't have to worry about the bow staff, we don't have to do that here. We can just do the
21. The high, which is 21,
Yes. So we can do +21.
And we can clear the nethicism.
We can clear the nethicism of showing the map attacks. Magical reach 10 feet.
Definitely still on there. So then we
can check out the damage. So since we picked the high attack bonus, even if the old damage was like more extreme because of the lower attack bonus, we don't have to do that here.
Yes.
So it would normally be something like 2d10 plus 13, aka 24. But the other ones do d12, so let's do 2d12 plus 11. Let's see if that is something that would work with her strength.
I think her strength is 5. Oh, no, it's 6.
It's 6. Okay, well, that won't quite work because she's got +6. We need +12 because that is her... that's her strength plus exactly her weapon specialization.
Well, but she also has Spirit Touch.
Oh, you're right. Does Spirit Touch add damage as well as making it automatically damage as a Ghost Touch? You're right. It deals a huge amount of damage.
It won't do quite as much at that level, but it will do. It's going to do extra d6 of damage.
Let's make it 9, so it's a halved weapon specialization. And then we can make Spirit Touch be 1d6.
That's pretty low for that level, because I think even a Vanth at 7th level is 2d6.
True, but that's because the Vanth uses their assigned scythe. She was not assigned her Spirit Touch weapon and refuses to craft weapons, so she has a lower amount of Spirit Touch on purpose.
Yeah, that works too.
Mostly, also, it just adds up more easily. It's still actually a little... It's a little high, but the numbers work well. And trying to do it with 1d12 would wind up, like, everything being in the spirit touch.
But a 9 isn't the right number because it's an even.
No, but it's 6 plus then 3 from the fact that 6 plus 9 is 15, so her proficiency is master.
Oh, right,
So then she gets 3 from weapon specialization. So it works. Actually, Sudoku is exactly where we might want to see it. So let's see if there's some other good points made that were in chat. Rico said your typical party member could run into this character in 3 different contexts. They need to buy things, deal with the aftermath of someone dying in a fight, yes, because she lives in a graveyard, and when they're trying to gather information about something important. That is true. You can run into her for any of these situations. Or just the GM throws her in as a random informant, whether they wanted to find out about something important or not.
Indeed.
Okay, so let's see. In terms of innate spells, I think she could have the innate spells, but she didn't actually stick with it long enough to learn all the spontaneous spells.
So clearly the ones that are higher level than she is.
Yes. So normally a morrigna is 15th level and goes up to 6th level on spontaneous spells. Mm-hmm. So she obviously could at most keep 5th level, but she's actually pretty good at fighting. Mm-hmm. So the fact that the morrigna is 2 levels below where they could be at most would suggest her keeping it up to 3rd level spells, but she could keep 4th because the 4th are mostly utility.
Yeah, and let's think about which of these ones that are higher levels we're going to want to keep it drop. For example, you just deleted a heal. Do we want her to have a lower rank heal?
Oh, you're right. I did delete her maximum heal. And a dispel magic, that is used for dispelling magic. So I would say that she probably could use heal.
Yeah, maybe instead of
spell immunity and dispel magic over Crisis of Faith.
Although I think that I don't think it's worth putting it in third level there because it's not like is a 9th level NPC. 4th is already not her possible highest rank where she's fighting, and it's not in cap, but it's one where the rank really matters.
I mean, the morrigna had it at 5th, but that is a good point.
So I think that it's not worth if it's not at 4th.
That's true. She could get dispel magic instead of freedom of movement. I mean, it was a higher priority one for morrignas to learn. Mm-hmm. So I think the really low level ones were all well chosen ones that are fine.
And then cantrips really levels
cantrips have to be changed to 5th,
yep.
because it was 8th before. And then the DC used to be 35, which for a level 15 psychopomp was just 1 below the high DC. Mm-hmm. So we can have our person was not as wise, and I think that they're wisdom-based casters. Mm-hmm. So she may actually be sticking with the moderate DC for her level of 25, which is not the greatest on some of these spells if they're being used as attacks. But her innate spells might have been able
higher,
to use...
just like the other regular morrignas.
Yes, the regular morrignas' innate spells were actually 1 above high.
Yes.
And we're going to say that she's able to use her int on hers, which is actually even higher relative compared to a regular morrigna.
Yeah, it's 3 higher than her wisdom. So.
Yes. So that would possibly be a
28, which is high.
Which is 28, which is flat out high.
Yes.
At least a 28.
Yes. And then we have to decide on whether she still knows Call Spirit. I mean, it is a 5th rank ritual, so like
I think she could.
level, so I think she can.
She could cast Call Spirit.
But that would also be 28.
Yeah, that would also be 28. And I think she can know Call Spirit. And she still can change into the humanoid and an animal form normally. And we will change the part where she can't use web wrappings because we can say because her armor has web wrappings on it, she can make web wrappings in alternate forms unless she hides her armor.
Yeah, that makes sense because normally a morrigna wouldn't be able to do that, but normally morrigna would have a different strike as well that they can
So
use.
the ability to summon a giant tarantula or spider swarm, I think that those are like ridiculously weak in terms of fighting, but are used for scouting purposes.
In which case, it should be fine.
This giant tarantula is not as weak for her, but I think it's weak enough that it's okay if she can do it.
Mm-hmm. Although I guess you can have any number in existence at once.
Let's see. She can have any number of summoned spiders in existence at once.
So perhaps there's a limitation on how many
she can have any number of summoned spider swarms in existence at once.
And up to some number of...
up to three
giant
tarantulas.
Yeah. And then we already changed Spirit Touch.
And we changed Spirit Touch. So, there we have it. Yeah, any number is what the basic morrigna has, Rico, but this we're gonna limit her giant
someone asked
tarantulas.
about the religion proficiency should be master so she can do final rites. What is her religion?
I think that makes sense. Her proficiency, but according to this, would still be pretty high.
Let's see.
It is master.
It's master, yes.
It's master. It's just that her wisdom is very low.
Yes.
Like, don't get me wrong. Plus 17 religion might be the best in this community, depending on how big it is. It's just that her crafting is 30.
Yes, but her crafting is completely bonkers because her crafting is like the crafting you would expect from a character 6 levels higher. Using the NPCs can be outsizely good at a skill that they're not using in combat rule.
Her closest friend in the mortal plane is a vain mimic with no ulterior motive who works for her as a model for her armor crafting. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
So what's her name? That's a good question, Turgaman. I put in as a stand-in Maka, which is with an HC instead of a CH, which is another Celtic
Rico
triple deity.
Points out that we shouldn't just say has no ulterior motive. Part of the concept was no ulterior motive whatsoever.
That's true.
Let's add the whatsoever.
Vain mimic with no ulterior motive, comma, whatsoever, who works for her as a model.
Okay, apparently Mark just decided that the mimic's name is whatsoever.
Yes.
Well, we're going with it.
It is a vain mimic with no ulterior motive, comma, whatsoever. Whatsoever is the name of the mimic. Is that weird of a name for a mimic?
If any ancestry is gonna name themselves whatsoever, I feel like a mimic might do it because it represents boundless potential.
It's true.
All right, so we have the mimic whatsoever, but we need a name for.
Actually, we can also vote for the names for anyone. So we're gonna vote for a name for this psychopomp. So we have 2 possible names from earlier.
That Mark has come up with.
Earlier in the stream, but you can come up with more. So I'm going to put the ones that already exist into the chat. You can come up with more or vote for Maka or misinformation. Also, for the mimic can be whatsoever is the only one we have so far for the mimic.
Yes.
And Turgaman suggests Kyliak with a K. So we've got Kyliak with a K as a third option for the morrigna. Right now, we have 1 vote for misinformation, and see, the thing about misinformation is I like it as a joke, but if that's literally her name, I think people will realize too quickly that her information is wrong. Maybe she decided to go by the name information, and it's like, I am information. If I just write information on my like she wrote information on her blacksmith sign because she thought people would come to her for information. They thought she was a blacksmith named information.
Yeah, and then people call her misinformation because they think that's like her last name or whatever, and she doesn't, and she's too formal to give her first name.
But then, yeah, I feel like she probably realized it was super sus that she went by information, and people weren't trusting that. Miss Maka, the information broker. And yes, the name whatsoever is very similar to Who's on First.
Yes.
Definitely is.
Oh my goodness. So maybe her name is Ms. Maka Information.
I mean, it could be.
And then that's her first name, and then she uses Information as her surname. Because of, like, some kind of... Well, like, that could have something to do with, like, she was trying to register on paperwork for, like, who she is.
Okay, guys, I've got this. Let's see who votes for this. I'm going to make it 4, even though it's similar. So, her name could be Maka Eolas. Eolas is information in Irish, according to Google. So, that way, if her name, if you go Miss Eolas, it's misinformation. And I probably mispronounced it horribly, because when you try to...
Is that Madame Info there? Is that what
when you try to pronounce vowels that are in any Gaelic language, if you don't know the language well, you're going to say it wrong. And
yeah,
that's true for consonants also.
I still like the idea of her, like, filling out, like, some kind of registration paperwork to become a citizen and, like, not understanding how to do it and winding up with Information as a surname. But...
Well, we'll see what people think about whether Information should just literally be there or whether it can be in a different name.
Oh yeah, Kojo says maybe her name is Maka Information. Everyone calls her Ms. because she's fancy.
Yes, it could also be Ms. Information with one S versus Misinformation, M-I-S-S.
Yes. Well, that's why I
thought... Due to the fact that she's really young, but she may not want people to think of her that way.
Yeah, well, young in comparison to these mortals, she's still, like, older than their grandparents.
Yes, exactly. But she's very young as a morrigna.
Yeah, but she probably doesn't look that young to mortals, I imagine. She, like,
Unclear, yeah. Unclear what her form is. Maybe I'm thinking that actually her form looks like a teenager because of the fact that she was reading books that she thought were like biographical information about the material plane, which is part of why she gets everything wrong, that were just like fantasy stories about these teenagers
and
doing
everyone who goes on
things.
adventures is like 15 or 16
and
years
then
old.
she would be like, if I don't look like that, then no one's gonna trust that I'm a regular blacksmith.
And then everyone's like, why
everyone's like, normally you would have to serve for 10 years under a master blacksmith before you even had your own forge. Why are you this young? And she's like, oops, it's too late, I've committed to it.
Well, I mean, she can take a humanoid form. She's like, I'm an elf. Yeah, like, that's totally it.
Alright, so, I think that, yeah, Kojo says she's been reading the equivalent of, like, Degrassi High or Twilight or other books like that, and thinking that that's, like, correct information about vampires and humans.
Yeah, and the Mimics friend's main form being a dress display mannequin.
It definitely
yeah,
a dress.
Absolutely.
Whatsoever is definitely usually a dress display mannequin when not, like, switching out to show different things, for sure. Alright, so I'm going to just put, Maka ALS / information, and then people can decide whether they want the slightly more serious sounding one that's only a pun if you know what the translation is, or the one where her name is literally misinformation. We've got everything we need here, so if you want to see what this stat block winds up looking like,
it will be going up shortly.
That has 4 of our 5 concepts all combined into one, then you can go to tiny.cc.
Well, it has all 5 of them in the end, because
well, the Mimic is her friend, whatsoever. Yeah. That's true. So,
well, I feel like whatsoever stats would be pretty similar to a default Mimic, because they have no ulterior motives.
That's correct. No concept whatsoever was left behind. We just did everything.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today.
So let's say goodbye to YouTube and then do our next vote for an episode. Bye, YouTube. See you next time.